Josh, Emily, you ready? How many have we got? We've got 82 people. That means that like 21 people are late. Stop texting me. Shh. So the funny, quick aside, I'm getting lost in a tangent before we even start. One of the funniest thing you do, if people stand up to talk at British Skydiving AGM, like Craig Poxon, immediately you have to phone him or text him. It's the law. Well, hello there, friends. Thank you for joining Emily, Aucutt, Josh, Carratt, and I. My name is Brian Cumming. Thank you for being here and investing your time to make yourself a better, safer skydiver. As my friend Lizzie said to me last year, safety isn't expensive, it's priceless. During this online class, I am hopeful that you won't learn anything. I am hopeful that it will only be a refresher because skill fade is real. I definitely shouldn't have said that. Thanks for calling me Richard. Without regular practice, it is easy to forget something that used to be second nature. Likewise, forgive us if I trip up over our, likewise, forgive us if we trip up over our words. This class is called Safety Hour, but in reality, given the content is going to take 60 to 90 minutes, we're aiming for 75 minutes of information and 15 minutes of Q&A. We won't go over 90 minutes, so if we have to cut the Q&A short, we'll do that. The three of us will hang around for 15 minutes or so after the formal end to mop up any questions you might have. We want you to be as confident about jumping again as you can be. Who knew that a year ago teaching skydiving over the internet would be a thing? This is class number 17 for me. Every class I've been involved in has included a contribution to Trees for the Future. With your help, in 2010, we raised enough to plant just shy of 12,000 trees. Today, I see we're currently at 3,340 trees, which is pretty impressive. Thank you very much. It's about 25 trees for everyone who registers. That is awesome. Chris Sears from Visionary introduced the charity to me. His mantra, one jump, one tree. It really calls to me. When you consider that it's $10 to plant 100 trees, that seems like something we can all make happen. 150 jumps a year, that's only $15 US. And yes, we should really be reducing our output rather than polluting and then offsetting it, but this is the best available option now. Chris and Visionary have offered up some prizes for tonight too, a beanie and 2 buffs. We're very grateful. Skydive Langar are giving us 2 jump tickets, and there's 3 pack jobs up for grabs as well. Although you can't win those tonight, Emily will reveal later. And the new Langar Cafe Eat, Swoop, Rave, Repeat has also offered us anything, one lucky person, anything off the breakfast menu. The winners will be chosen at random. I have the order in which you signed up to the class here. And everyone has been assigned a number. Thank you to the people who signed up more than once. We appreciate it. I'll bring up a random number generator on the screen and it could be you. We plan to run this at the start of the Q&A immediately after some screenshots. It's become a running joke now. At the start of the Q&A, be prepared to have a shirt on, although trousers are not required. Yes, it has happened. If you have a question for us, please type it into the chat function and your question will be one of the first to be answered. It'd be great if you could put it in the shared chat too, so that everyone can see it. If you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it too. Anything sent privately will be treated as anonymous. Okay. Safety Hour with Emily, Aucutt, Josh, Carratt, and me. Emily has around about 1,900 jumps, and she was a nurse before discovering her love of the sky. She has been hard at work during this lockdown, stabbing people to keep them alive. She is a current AFFI and a CSI, and she was BPA Instructor of the Year in 2018. Did I get that year right, Emily?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you want to say anything? Say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to clarify, I've not been stabbing people, I've been vaccinating them. I feel like it sounds aggressive. I've been stabbing them to keep them alive, but yeah, been vaccinating.
Josh Carratt has around about 2,500 jumps, maybe just over. He is a current CSI, AFFI, and TI, and he's also a pilot with about 1,000 hours and is a part owner of Skydive Langar. He spent several seasons at Voss in Norway, where they crammed 24,000 jumps into only 6 months of the year. That doesn't mean that as Langar is open 12 months a year, we'll be able to cram 50,000 jumps in a year, but you know, nice to have something to aim for. Josh, do you want to say hello?
Hey, I'm Josh. I've not been vaccinating people because I'm not a saint. Can't all do.
Hey folks, you are here for a refresh on everything you knew when you last jumped, but might now have forgotten. Your last jump might have been December 2020 for the lucky people, or it might have even been 2019 or even older than that. We have a range of people with us tonight. The pandemic and the lockdown has played havoc with our lives, our families, our hobbies, our income, our physical and mental health. our thoughts go out to anyone who lost someone. But finally, the UK is coming out of restrictions. Our vaccine contracts were cleverly worded, and with people like Emily stabbing as many people as she can, we are now planning to get back to the best therapy we know, the Sky. This class is aimed mostly at people with a B license and above, but it's still 90–95% valid for anyone below that too. Just that some sections you won't make sense just right now. You can't be refreshed on what you haven't been taught yet, but we're very glad that you're here. Okay, important disclaimer, excuse me. We are all current British skydiving AFF instructors. This class is not an exhaustive list, but it is to the best of our knowledge. You have all, if you're watching this, you have all done at least one skydive. So we're assuming you have a certain level of intelligence and common sense to have survived to be here. And obviously by being here and watching this, you are demonstrating a superior level of intelligence than the common person that we walk among. But don't be complacent. And please don't sue us if you die on your first jump back, although you can have a refund. We are going to run through as much as we can think of as that we need to know, that you need to know. We'll be using the order of arriving at the DZ and jumping. Basically, that's the order we're going to. Before we get to the drop zone, when we're at the drop zone, kitting up, on a call, going to the plane, that packing area, landing area packing, and so on. This is the bit you love. I love this bit. We're about to take you out of your comfort zone and get you thinking for yourself. Plus, it's a little bit social too, and some of us need that right now. Emily, I can't see the breakout room function on your account. Have you got it?
Oh, no, I don't know. Where would I find it?
It's normally at the bottom here. It's so often at the bottom here, I don't even check for it. That's really annoying.
Nope.
Is that something you can't do in a large meeting? This is the first 97 people. We must be able to do this. I've done it before with sizes this big.
It's a setting on the account, which I think you need to log in to the website bit to change it. But then from my memory, it requires everybody to log back out of a meeting and back in again in order for it to work.
Huh.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
One other thing to try, Brian, you're only a co-host, not a host. Emily, can you promote Brian to host as well?
Just to double check.
Do it then.
So this is a really valid lesson, guys. This works in skydiving as well. Don't borrow kit and expect it to work just like your own kit. You'll hear people, experienced instructors saying the deceased was on a borrowed kit. And I feel like I'm doing that right now. So I'm now a host. I still don't have that option. What a great lesson. What a great moral that is. Fuck.
I'm just having a look in settings.
Okay, we might come back to that. So that question was going to be, basically we do this so you take a little bit of personal responsibility. We want you to think for yourself. The people who think for themselves are the people who last longest in the sport. We will need you to be able to identify issues, calculate the risks, understand them and mitigate them if possible. The question we were going to ask was for the thing that you are most nervous about coming back to jumping. So maybe we just take 2 minutes now. If you want to stick it in the chat, just stick it in the chat now and let us know. We've got a few minutes allocated to this, so that'd be great. What are you most nervous about? Me, I'm most nervous about stuff going wrong when I'm teaching people. Shit, it just happened. Cool. George Andrews, wingsuit openings. Jonathan Rash wants to be better at packing. Tom and Katie jumping their new gear. Gary Crisp having a 2 out. Okay, don't pull low, dude. Matt and J-Lo forgetting to arch. Just eat more, guys. Jamie Hewitt's nervous about having a hop and pop. Emily, do you want to read a few out?
Yes, I got Jess, she's a bit nervous about the ride to altitude. You know, it's 20 minutes to sit there and think about things. Forgetting landing heights, massive groups, so jumping in big groups straight away. Canopy collisions, increased wing loading. It might be, after lockdown. Will my lockdown pack job be a smooth opening? Landings. Well, that's
Carolina
3
had a
meters.
really nice. Sorry, Emily. Carolina had a really nice one there. It says other people, which I think is a really valid thing. And maybe I don't know if that's a coronavirus thing or if that's just a lack of currency, lack of trust in other people getting current. 5,500 skydivers in the UK, 100 people here tonight. That's 5,400 people who are dangerous. Anyway, carry on.
Lots of landings in there. Lots of people worried about landings or canopy related stuff.
There's quite a few people worried about packing as well. So it's quite cool to see is like lots of common themes. So it's like Brian said at the beginning, if you're thinking it, there's probably 100 other people that are also thinking or worrying about the same thing as well.
And we are going to try and cover as much of these things as possible this evening. So hopefully we can touch on these things. David Flood becoming complacent. Hopefully not, which is why you're here. Charlie, complacency as well. Good job.
Adrian's one is pretty good. People being too excited, potentially missing key steps. It's a real thing. I think people are going to be chomping at the bit to get back at it, maybe going a little too fast.
Cool. Okay, we're just going to say another few seconds on this. If you've got one, hit enter now. Mike Hiberneck, overthinking topics, not keeping it simple, and wanting to be carrying on where you were last season, not starting out with the basics first. Yeah, crawl, walk, run, and it goes for refreshers as well as even just learning.
I feel like all of these messages have basically written the next hour of what we're talking about anyway. So our job is done.
Exactly.
It's like going back to basics, keeping it simple. I like Tim's, like not being aware of things he's forgotten. Yeah, like you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you might have forgot. So hopefully all of this stuff we'll touch upon over the next hour. James, where's my paperwork? You should probably have a look, James. You've got a week. Get hunting.
Sweet. Okay. Thanks so much, guys, for bearing with us for those technical issues. So let's go on with it. So Emily is going to talk to you now about what you can do before you leave your house.
So yeah, like I said, we've got a week to go. If you're one of the super keen beans that's planning on being at the drop zone from the very first second that we can get there. So you've got 7 days to get yourself prepared for getting back to jumping. So first of all, I'd say make sure your kit's ready, including your paperwork. So make sure that your rig has been repacked. If it's not, then get in touch with your friendly reserve packer, see if they've got room for you this week to get that repacked. Make sure that your outies and audibles are charged. If you need to order some batteries, you've still got plenty of time to get them ordered and popped into your audibles. You might want to give your jumpsuit a bit of a clean if it's a bit smelly from last season still. And also making sure that you've got your buffs and masks that you're happy to jump in. So again, last summer, we were all already wearing buffs in the plane. So making sure you've got a good stash of them. Maybe get your bag packed ready to go to the drop zone nice and early. So when you arrive, you've got everything and you know where everything is. And it'll just take a little bit of the stress of getting to the drop zone for the first time. It'll take some of that stress away. Talking about getting your reserve repacked and paperwork, doing kit and docs. We're probably all going to have to do kit and docs when we get to the drop zone for the first time. If you jump at Langar, you can email us a copy of your packing, your reserve packing documents, and it'll make that process a little bit quicker and a little bit easier when you get to the drop zone as well. So again, that's one job already ticked off the list to make sure that your kit is all good to go. You might also want to repack your main if you've had that sat around for a little while, packed. If it's been a couple of months. So maybe if you've got the space at home, you've got a good area to do it in, take it out, give it get it packed. If you're not too confident on your packing skills, then don't stress too much, because if you get to the drop zone nice and early, you can always get it repacked by one of the packers there. But it might be good practice, get familiar with your rig again. And this is your chance to win one of our prizes as well. So whoever sends in or posts on the Langar Facebook page the best packing photo, lockdown packing photo, then you can win 3 packing tickets. So 1 pack job from you could win you 3 pack jobs from the lovely packers at Langar. So send them in by, I think we said, was it Easter Friday?
Yes, before Easter Friday. So it's packing at home. This is to make sure you don't have a shit pack job.
Yeah, find a good space. And like I said, if you're not too confident in your packing, you can get it repacked when you get to the drop zone. The more prep that you put in now, the less rushing that you're going to have when you get to the drop zone, and that means you're going to have more brain space to focus on the jumps that you're doing. So make sure you've got everything sorted. Do all your admin now, then you can really enjoy your first day back at the drop zone. Other things to think about before you get to the drop zone is maybe the jumping conditions. So we already kind of mentioned that people are going to be super excited to get jumping and to get back in the sky, but we are still in the UK and the conditions might not be ideal. So just because you can jump doesn't necessarily mean that you should jump. So think about your own experience levels, think about what you're comfortable jumping in, and maybe set yourself a limit before you get to the drop zone, so you don't get overexcited and jump in conditions that you're not fully happy or confident in. So set yourself your own wind limit if it's a little bit less than our maximum limits that we've got. And also have a rough plan for your first jumps. So, you know, again, trying not to get too overexcited and arriving and ending up in a big group that you didn't mean to be in. So see how you get on jumping in small groups. Sorry, that was my mum. Yeah, so if you're going to do a solo, you get to plan that before you get to the drop zone and then stick to that plan as well. You might be a little bit nervous, so try visualizing some of your first jumps before you get there, and you can also refresh yourself as well. So if you did AFF or static line, you'll have a little manual, so you can have a little read through that. Also, maybe have a little look at some of the old safety day videos. They're probably more helpful than scrolling through all the Friday freak out videos. And also check out Dan BC's Facebook page. He's always got tons of cool videos that are kind of safety orientated as well, that gets your brain back in that kind of skydiving zone, ready to get back to jumping. So then I think Josh is going to give you a little chat about getting to the drop zone and what to do when you get there.
Yeah, so hopefully if you followed Emily's advice, you're already pretty prepared by the time you're turning up at the drop zone. The main point of what I want to talk about is just giving yourselves time when you get to the drop zone. Afford yourselves the luxury of time. One of the things that you get that's nice as being a paying customer is you can take as much time as you want. Sometimes you'll see the staff running around, rushing for a lift. It's not actually a very nice position to be in, but we do it because it's our job. And I don't think you guys should put yourselves in that position, at least not to start out with, unless you need to. So for your first day back, really think about setting reasonable expectations for what you are going to do on the first day. You know, 1 jump, you know, is probably a pretty good result. 2 jumps, maybe a great day for your first day back. There's a lot to cover. And taking a little bit more time is a great way to keep yourself safe. So the first thing you need to do when you get to a drop zone, whether it's Langar or a different drop zone when you come back to skydiving, is go to reception and check in. Pretty much all drop zones are going to want you to come and check in when you get there during COVID times. I'll come on to COVID a bit more in a second. After you've done that, if you're not sure, I'd maybe ask whether all your kit and docs is already sorted, if they got everything on file. And that way, when you get to manifest later on, you're not going to get any surprises that they're missing any documents. After that, I'd go and find yourself a nice quiet corner in the hangar or whatever space at whatever drop zone you have, where no one's going to bother you for a bit. I'd get all your kits out, I'd lay it down on the floor, and then start going through it in a systematic order. So from your head downwards, do you have your helmet ready? Is it adjusted for you? Do you have your goggles? Are they clean? Is your audible in your helmet? Are your batteries charged up? Do you have a mask? Do you have your jumpsuit? Do you have your rig? Before you get anywhere near manifest, make sure you've got all that stuff ready, because we don't want to be running around looking for it on a 20-minute call. You might even want to, at that point, put your kit on, try it all on, check you've got everything, check you're happy, again, before we get near manifest. After that, I'd start planning your first jump back. So Emily's already talked about it a little bit. Maybe for your first jump, you might want to do a solo. Having other people around you, they might start to pressure you into doing bigger jumps. If you agree to do a 2-way, 3-way, 4-way, they might pressure you to go tracking when you don't want to. Doing a solo is a good way to ensure that you get to control your own jump, at least for that first jump. We still haven't got to manifest. Before we go there, I'd think about planning your canopy flight plan. So think about any threats you might have on that day. What's the expected traffic going to be like on your jump? Maybe if you don't want traffic, you could consider doing a hop and pop. What's the expected wind? Is it an east wind at Langar? Is it going to put you in a position where you might land on the wrong side of the beer line? Is there anything you can do to combat that? Maybe you set up a little bit further out. Where do you expect to open? Consider your response to all of these factors. And then after you've got all of that ready, then I would go to manifest and put yourself on a load with a good amount of time ahead of you. So a brief bit about COVID stuff then. At Langar, we're opening on the 29th of March. There's some other drop zones doing that as well. But I think what's worth saying is those first 2 weeks back until April the 12th, is very much about the sport side of skydiving. People really should just be coming to participate in the sport. The social side, unfortunately, isn't really there at that point. COVID is still a very real thing. So please take that into account during those first couple weeks back. As much as we want to get back to normality of being able to hang out with our friends, you know, sit in the sun, enjoy the summer, that sort of thing, I don't think we're quite there for those 2 weeks. We will be able to skydive and we have to be thankful for that. We will be able to enjoy it. But I don't think normality is going to come until a little bit later in the summer. So at least for that first part, just please try to follow the guidance as much as possible. Keep yourself safe from COVID as well as keeping yourself safe in skydiving. Let's try and show off the fact that skydiving is a professional and an organized looking sport in that early part. So the next part comes, we've manifested ourselves and now we're on a call. One thing that's kind of interesting with being on a call in skydiving is a 20-minute is a number that gets used quite a lot of drop zones. You go on a 20-minute call, but that number is kind of arbitrary, right? We don't have to start getting ready on a 20-minute call. We could start getting ready at 10 minutes. We could start getting ready at 30 minutes, especially with more and more drop zones using Burwell. You can see what call you're on your phone or on screens they might have around a drop zone. So again, afford yourself some extra time. I would start getting ready on your first jump back, probably about the 30-minute mark. I'd probably have my kit on by the 20-minute mark, and I'll probably do that, especially if I'm working with students. I tend to have all my kit on, or tandems, ready to go way ahead of time, because then I have more time to help a student get ready. After you've got your kit on, maybe touch your handles, get used to where your main handle is again, get used to where your cutaway pad is, get used to where your reserve handle is. Walk through your jump. If you've given yourself the time, even if it's a solo jump, you know, just think about how you're going to exit, think about what you're going to do in free fall, and think about what height you're going to pull. Walk through your canopy plan. All right, so have a think about where you're going to open, have a think about what points you need to be at, what altitudes over the ground to get to the right place. After you've done that, if we've started getting ready early enough, you've still got plenty of time. I would go find the jump master, tell them what your plan is for the jump, and get yourself set in where you need to be in the exit order. Find out what the exit separation is. Keeping yourselves distanced in free fall is a good way to increase your safety when you open your parachutes. And to do that, we need to know what the exit separation is. If you don't know how to find that out, you can ask the drop zone controller, or the jump master should be able to help you too. One thing that's changing with the new CT rules that will come in is you need to communicate more of your canopy plan to the jump master. That's especially important for the guys swooping. I don't know if there is anyone in this group, but the same thing applies to any flight plan, really. If you're doing something out of the ordinary or you want a bit of advice, you can speak to your jump master, let them know what the plan is, and that's how we build up good separation of canopies after they open. If you've got plenty of time at that point, I would start spending that watching the previous lift. So watch the guys that have just jumped out of the plane. How are they doing under canopy? Is the wind pushing them around? Are they going to land where they wanted? Did they open where you thought they were going to open? So use other people's mistakes to learn from. Or their good performance. So now we're walking out to the aircraft. Hopefully we know our exit order already. We know who's before and after us. Start to identify any threats that might come from that. Are you likely to overtake the person in front of you? Are they on a bigger canopy than you? Are there people on smaller canopies behind you that are likely to overtake you? Thinking about the traffic, thinking about what the wind's doing, thinking about the spot, thinking about the landing area. I think Brian's got a section at the end of this where we're going to talk about some mistakes Emily and I have made. And I'll talk about a little story about a landing area that caused me to make a mistake one time. Consider your response to all those threats again, like we talked about earlier. As we're walking towards the plane, keep maintaining your social distance and get your masks up nice and early. The amount of times last season, but we got to about this point before people realized that they didn't have a mask on. So include that in your checks as well. When you're checking your friend or your buddy, make sure they've got their helmet, make sure they've got a mask on them. Before you get to the plane, think about who's going to be cleaning it. Who cleans the rails, who cleans the doors. Not all drop zones are doing that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the jump master. If you want to help out with that, then you can. Hopefully that wasn't too much shipping forecast for you, but my sedate way of talking. Hopefully if you approach your first jump with a good level of preparation, you should feel pretty calm by the time you're getting to the aircraft. Nothing should shock you. You should be prepared for most eventualities. So it's over to Brian now. He's going to talk about what to do once you're in the plane.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for some really great points there as well. And I really am enjoying the considered manner in which you're talking. It's helping me to breathe and calm down with 98 people staring at me. And it's just a case of, I really agree, just breathe, just enjoy, just slow down. You know, we don't need to rush it. Okay, so a few quick stats. I've got 110, I see 110 people registered. I see 98 online at the moment. That's 21 A license, 26 B license, 45 C license, and 15 D license. So we may well have some Canopy pilots in the room, and 3 students. So there's 21 people here who don't have a B license yet. 24 including the students. So when we talk about jump master duties, this isn't going to mean a lot to you, but basically as jump master, so in the plane, if you are called upon to be jump master, you're the eyes and the ears of the chief instructor. You're helping keep everyone safe. You are the parent of the plane, so to speak. And we're all learning. Don't be afraid to admit you don't know. Just ask questions, ask advice from other skydivers. You know, there might be something funky going on the aeroplane. Just get some advice from the more experienced skydivers. You don't have to know everything. Board efficiently and quickly to limit time on the aircraft in a shared environment. We should be trying to keep talking to a minimum. You don't really need to be talking unless it's absolutely necessary, for example, the instructors and for safety issues. Stay still, relax, and mentally prepare about your skydive. Ensure you thought about, on the way up, this is brilliant. Ensure you thought about the 3 heights that you should have in your head on every aeroplane. Tick them off as you go up through them. The first height, if there's an aircraft emergency right now, I'm going to stay with the plane. And then you go through that first height, you're now getting out on your reserve. What height is that? The second height, what height are you going to get out on your main parachute? And then the third height, the top height, what height would you get out and do a free fall, maybe even a simple 2-way, although it really depends on what kind of altitude you're at and what kind of aircraft emergency you're in. If the wing has fallen off, I suggest you don't do that. There is no right and wrong answer. It depends on your confidence and your kit and the height your AAD is set to fire at. So have a think about it and work it out. In fact, there is a wrong answer. The wrong answer is not having an answer. Choose your number. It could be as high as 4,000. It could be a lot lower than that. Under canopy, now what? If you have had that aircraft emergency and you've all piled out, there's lots of canopies close together. Be aware. Think these things through, and be aware of possible off landings. You're still in the plane. Visualize the free fall. Visualize the track. Visualize the deployment, and then maybe even the canopy ride. I mean, you have got a plan A for your canopy turn heights, right? And having looked at the windsock before you got on the plane, you've now got a plan for where those turns will be, so you can visualize that as well. Maybe visualize your plan A or plan B. Enjoy the plane ride. Okay, we're getting there. Breathe, smile. Face coverings. We're all going to be wearing a face covering in the aeroplane. Are you going to take yours off for free fall? You can bring yours down when the door opens. How do you plan to keep it secure? if you do take it off. Some people like to scrunch it down. Some people like to whip it down from underneath their full face helmet. Just have a plan for that as well. And if people are taking ages in the door, be aware of like where you're likely to be on exit. And with various numbers in the plane, Josh, can you clarify how big is the plane? What capacity are we taking the plane to when we first open, please?
We'll be at 15 already.
15. Okay,
Same
so
as we finished on last week.
cool. So the center of gravity issues will be just like normal. Be aware of what your specific plane is for the caravan. We're going to need a few people by the pilot, especially if there's big groups. Okay, doors opened, red lights on. Emily, free fall.
So yeah, free fall. We've got to the point that we've all been waiting for. And if you followed everything that we've suggested so far, then you really should be able to get out of the plane and just have fun and enjoy it. Those first few jumps back, I guarantee if you're nervous and feeling a little bit anxious about jumping, once you get out into free fall, if you're nice and prepared, you're going to absolutely love it again. And all those nerves will just disappear. You'll leave them behind in the plane. So really do all this work beforehand, and you're going to be able to make the most of these first few jumps when we get back. Keep the jump simple. Then you've got time and headspace to focus on enjoying it, and the brain power to think about what you need to do, pulling. All right. So keep it nice and simple to start off with. Plan the jump and then jump the plan. So even if it's a super easy skydive, something that you know you can do and it's going really, really well, and like I said, all those nerves have gone, don't push it too much. All right. Even if you're feeling really confident, consider the people that you're jumping with as well. They might be a little bit less experienced, a little bit less confident. They might be feeling a little bit more anxious and maybe a little bit more nervous than yourself. So keep it nice and simple, and then stick to that simple plan that you've got. For the first few jumps as well, maybe don't try and pick up exactly where you left off before lockdown. It's great to be really keen to be learning new things and to be pushing that progression, but especially when we've all had a bit of a layoff and we've all had a big gap, it's better to refresh and consolidate all your old skills. And that actually will probably make your progression a little bit easier and more successful in the long run. So I've already had a few messages about people wanting to get going with their FS coaching, which is great to see, but I would suggest going and doing a couple of solos to start off with. Or, if you're really keen to start learning to fly head down, maybe go do a couple of simple head up jumps before you go and make things more complicated and give yourself more things to think about to start off with. We've got the whole summer ahead of us to get progressing and to get working on those things. So yeah, take it easy to start off with, and you'll get there. You'll get those stickers that you're working towards eventually. Think about your pull height. So again, have this plan. Think about this on the ground. Think of what height you're going to break off. Remember to stop your track once you broke off. Flare out from your track in before you pull, and have a plan and stick to the plan. Even if you're going to do a solo, don't forget to think through your free fall. So think about what exit you're going to do. Are you going to do a couple of practice touches, get some good confidence with finding that main handle again? Are you going to just stick to practicing a couple of turns, practicing your heading control, or are you feeling like you might do a bit of a back loop, or just make sure you've got a plan, and it'll help you get the most out of your first free fall jumps. And then we get to the point where we pull and we're under canopy. So Josh is going to talk you through a little bit here, and then I'll take over.
I sometimes joke with tandem students after the canopy opens that we've done the easy bit. A lot of accidents that happen in skydiving happen under canopy, and I think a lot of them can be avoided just by being better at anticipating them and knowing what your response to certain things are going to be before you find yourself in that situation. Chris Cook wrote an article it was actually mostly for people doing high performance turns or swoopers, but a lot of the principles are applicable to people doing normal canopy flight plans. So you can find that on the Langar website if you're interested. The general principle is that, if we're on kit that we're familiar with, we're doing a flight plan that we're familiar with, and we're doing a maneuver that we're familiar with, we are keeping ourselves much safer. And if anything deviates from that, we should do our best to anticipate it before we get there. It's amazing how small changes can even affect how mentally you feel during a canopy flight. Little things throw me off, like having a different pair of gloves on changes how the toggles feel in my hands. The toggles suddenly feel slippy. I don't feel as comfortable as I would. So if you sense anything is different as you're getting back to jumping, then just try and think about that before you end up under canopy. Anything different, if you're jumping a different canopy, you're jumping at a different drop zone, perhaps you're jumping in different conditions to what you're used to. Try to anticipate them. So we've opened our canopy. Let's first then just talk about what nuisance factors we might have after our canopy has opened. So general ones, twists, maybe our slider is slightly stuck up. For the lower experienced guys, we might have a bit of end sail closure. We might have a brake fire, so a premature toggle release. These are all rectifiable problems, but we can't spend too much time trying to fix them, which means that we should have a set height in our mind. But if we're still trying to fix one of those problems and we've hit that height, then that is no longer a nuisance factor, it's become a malfunction. And be really firm on yourselves about what that height is. For me, it's 2,000 feet. If I've still got twists at 2,000 feet, doesn't matter, canopy's going. I think Emily's going to talk more about that in a second as well. For things like brake fires, I would encourage everyone to drill what your response is to that. So if you look up and you notice one of your brakes off, it should be very clear in your mind what your response is going to be. Most people should be pop off the other brake if you've got the headspace to do that. Lower experienced people, maybe that's not something you're quite ready for, especially students. Let's assume then that we've fixed all of our nuisance factors and now we have a good canopy above our head. The next thing most of us come onto is all of those housekeeping type items. So we're collapsing our slider. Maybe for more experienced people, we might be loosening our chest strap. We might be pulling the slider down behind our head. We might even be removing our slider. Even more things, we might be shifting our leg straps around. We might be taking our booties off. One thing I'd encourage everyone to do is be very clear on what order those things happen for you. So for me, I take off my slider first, and then I loosen my leg straps, and then, loosen my chest strap, then I shift my leg straps, and then I start taking my toggles off and head back towards the drop zone. If things deviate from that order, then my canopy flight plan is all getting a little bit thrown off already. For example, if I have to remove my toggles before taking my slider off, now my canopy is flying very fast and I'm trying to get my slider off at the same time. Everything's going a little bit wrong and we should be prepared for that. So if you're not familiar with those things, or it's new to you to be collapsing your slider, doing these things after opening, taking your booties off, I would try to come up with an order. And if you don't know a particular order, speak to someone who experienced who can help you work out whether booties coming off comes before or after collapsing your slider. So we've got a good canopy, we've done all those little tasks, and we're heading back towards the drop zone. If you've got time on your first jump, maybe you've planned to pull a little bit higher, have some basic drills that you want to try just to get used to what your canopy feels like again. Try at least a left turn and a right turn, maybe try 90 degrees, then try 180 degrees. Try a flare, get used to what a flare feels like again under your canopy. Get used to using your rear risers again if you've given yourself time to do that, extending your range if that's something you're familiar with. A lot of canopy accidents could be avoided if people were better at using both brakes in an emergency, so an abort from a turn. So if you turn too low to the ground, you can normally save your life if you fully depress both the toggles in a way that will quickly stop that turn. And that's something you can practice. If all of this stuff is starting to sound a bit confusing, or you don't know what I'm talking about, then I would really recommend that you try a canopy course. So we've got loads of them going on in the UK really this year. There's more Flight 1 coaches in the UK than there was last year. There's new guys getting that rating. There's other canopy schools that are doing it. There's another school coming over from the Algarve. So there's more availability for canopy courses in the UK than there ever has been in the past, I would say. One of the things about the new rules that's really good that you can jump different canopies with different qualifications is there's an incentive there for people to do these courses. So there's an incentive to go and get your CT1, get your CT2 and learn more about your canopy. And I think that will improve the safety a lot in the UK. So yeah, there is some reason for those rules if anyone's thinking about it. A little bit about off landing sense. Someone said that was something people are scared about earlier. So the best thing you can do for an off landing is to anticipate it. So if you spend that time before you're getting in the plane thinking about what the wind is, thinking about, oh, I'm doing a solo, I'm the last one to exit this plane, there's not much wind, you know, I could be looking at off landing, or, you know, I'm at least going to be a little bit far away on this jump. If you've already thought about that, you've had the time to think about how to extend your range, you've had the time to meditate on the idea of it, you know, if I have to, I'll just land off, I'm not going to do a low turn. Pretty much every injury that happens under canopy because of landings, etc., can be avoided if people would just follow the priorities for landing that we used to learn during CH1, we recovered during CH2, and you learn on your ground school. And priority number 1 is to land under a flat and level canopy. The amount of times you see someone do something radical to turn around into wind or to avoid a hazard, where, you know, if they'd just taken the downwinder and gone first, they might have looked a little bit silly, but they would have stood up and walked away from it, and we would have laughed in the bar. So really follow those priorities for landing. Number 1 is to land under a flat and level canopy. Number 2 is to land in an area free of hazards. And then number 3 is to land into wind, in that order. And it's actually not that important to land into wind. How are we doing for time? Am I rambling, Brian?
You're good. You're good.
So just
you
a
are
quick
the opposite of rambling, actually, Joshua.
So one thing I think is particular to the UK. In the UK, pretty much every drop zone, because of the way we're set up with normally free runway airfields, is we normally have about 360 degrees of landing directions to choose from. And what that does, I find, is makes it British jumpers a little bit bad at landing crosswind or even with a slight tailwind, because we're so used to just being able to land in the direction we want to. You go to drop zones like Empuria, Castillon, Voss, places where they have a runway and you either land up or down the runway, then quite often you're landing a little bit crosswind or you're landing a little bit downwind. So traveling to different drop zones will help you get better at that stuff. Getting better at landing in near wind conditions you can do just by being a little bit less fixated on which way you're going to end up landing. That covers pretty much everything I wanted to talk about canopy flight plan. So I almost forgot that Emily's going to talk about malfunctions. So malfunctions next with Emily.
So I was just going to talk a little bit about when things, you know, we talk about thinking about our plan A, and having an idea of what height we're going to do what, but we also need to think about when things don't go to plan. So having a malfunction. Again, it all comes down to planning and preparation. If you're expecting a malfunction on every jump, then at the end of the day, you'll just be pleasantly surprised when you have a good canopy, but you'll be ready to act on that one time that you have a malfunction. You'll be nice and comfortable. You'll run through that situation in your head many times before. So you'll be ready to act nice and quickly and effectively to it. So again, after having a little bit of a break, a few months off, it's really good, no matter what your experience level is, to think about malfunctions again. Think about how you recognize a malfunction and how you respond to that malfunction as well. So think through different situations you could find yourself in. And you might already have these ideas, and you just need to refresh yourself on how you're going to respond to all these different situations. Keep it nice and simple when you're thinking about these. You know, don't stress about revising all the names for all the different malfunctions. Like I said, focus on how you recognize them and how you respond to them. So at Langar, we teach our students to use those 3 questions. Is it big? Is it square? Is it damage free? And if you have a no to any of them, then you have a malfunction. And if you have any doubt at all, then there's not really any doubt, is there? You know, if you're unsure, then you can always cut away and pull your reserve. It's going to cost you 40, 45 quid to get a repack, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So again, if you've still got your books that you had when you learnt, so your manuals, have a little look through them. You'll find some malfunction pictures. If you don't have that anymore, if you've lost it, if it's been a little while since you got your A license and you want to refresh yourself, then maybe get to the drop zone a little bit early on your first few days back. And we have loads of copies of these photos dotted around the drop zone. So you can have a little look through. Maybe if you've got a couple of friends that are experienced as well, you can go through some emergency drills with each other. You could come grab one of the instructors and we'll run through some drills with you as well. Grab some practice jackets. They're not just for students. So have a go at pulling those handles as well. Make sure that you've got that muscle memory down to perfection, so that in that situation, when you do have a malfunction, you're going to execute those drills, with perfection. If you have a rig that's got the repack and its repack is due pretty soon, then maybe talk to whoever's packing it for you and see if there's an opportunity for you to do your drills on your actual piece of equipment, so you can pull your own handles, get used to feeling what that resistance is like, peeling off the cutaway pad from the Velcro, feeling how it feels to punch that reserve handle all the way down, because it's a pretty good time to practice that when your reserve is due. A couple of other situations to have a think about. So have a little think about what you would do in an entanglement. 2 out, horseshoes, canopy collisions, and like Josh said, off landings, all of these situations that aren't the norm, aren't what we've planned for, but if we consider them and if we do plan for them, then if they are to arise, then we're good to go and we're ready. If you're unsure about how you would react to any of them, then like I said, come and find an instructor, drop us a message. You can message us on the chat on here, or drop us a message on Facebook, or drop your drop zone an email and see if you can spend a bit of time with an instructor before you do jump. Other things to think about is, I think it's been mentioned already, is having a hard deck. So do you have one, and what is it? All right, if you don't have one, then really think about what you would what height you would be comfortable cutting away from. So at Langar, we often teach everyone that 2,000 feet is a pretty good place to start. So if you don't have a good canopy by 2,000 feet, you're going to cut away and pull your reserve, even if it's twists. All right, don't be that person that tries to kick out their twists too low and ends up in a pretty sticky situation. So have a plan and then stick to that as well. Cool. And then I think Brian's going to have a little chat about the landing area and how to keep safe there.
Cool. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, you made it. We did the skydive. We're good. We're on the ground. Well, not quite. It's not over until you're in the packing shed, or wherever you're going to pack. Make sure you do the basics, turn around and face the traffic. All the people flying towards you may not be as current and relaxed as the last time you stood on the landing area. Don't risk it. Move out of the way if you're on a small landing area. Don't cut your canopy. If it's in the air, get it down on the ground straight away. Move out of the way. Be considerate. Help the other people out there, probably a little bit nervous as well, just like you are. Keep an eye out for everyone on the landing, and don't just stand there messing around. Put your face covering back on as you approach other people, especially if you've got getting the minibus back, like Headcorn or Algarve or somewhere like that. And then don't forget to check in with DZ Control. Cool. Packing shed, Emily.
So yeah, so we have landed, we've walked off the landing area, we're back at the packing shed, and everyone's going to be super excited after your first jumps back. And then you're going to have to realize that you've now got to pack your canopy. So take your time is the main thing, especially, if you're fairly new to packing already, then take it nice and slow. There's no rush. All right. If these first few days of jumping, you only get 1 or 2 jumps in, that's fine. All right. We're going to slowly get faster and get more jumps in as we get through the season. We're going to have longer days. It's going to be better weather, and we'll be more current to be able to fit more jumps. So don't rush, take your time. And if anything doesn't quite look right when you're packing, then don't just pack it anyway. Get someone else with a bit more experience to come and take a look. We've got lots of packers that work on the packing mat at Langar. So you can always grab one of them to come check out your kit, make sure that it is all good. Maybe you've got a tangle in there that you didn't really notice, but you noticed that it didn't quite look right. So always get that kind of second opinion. and be considerate. So make sure you're giving everyone a lot of space. We've got a huge hangar at Langar. So yeah, spread out, make sure you've got your kit, just put it all to one side, your helmet, your gloves, put your rig down, just pick your little lane and pack there, and then go and manifest again. But I would definitely suggest packing and then manifesting, because you definitely don't want to get caught out on a really short call and having to rush these first few pack jobs when we get back, because it's all going to, you know, take a couple of jumps before it feels really familiar and comfortable again. So main thing, like with everything we've said, really, is to just take your time.
Cool. Thank you, Emily. Wow, I can't believe we've just whistled through that. It really was safety hours, safety 45, 50 minutes. We're going to open it up to questions and answers now. I see some questions have already come in on the chat, and we'll get to those in a second. I think I'm going to steal the first question, though. We're going to do some photos now, though, guys. So if you wouldn't mind, just making sure you've got tops on, making sure your hair's nice. I can see you people doing that. Thank you. So this is screen 1. We're going to take a photo in 3, 2, 1. Okay, screen 2. You can smile if you want, people. Cool. Charlie, I see you. Sam Hayes, Tim Young, Phil Taylor. Thumbs up, guys. Dave Green, Jess Straub, George Andrews, and lots of other people. Carolina, Avocado, hey Fleur. Thumbs up. Oh, look at Tim with everybody in the room. Thumbs up, guys. And good one. Okay, screen 3. Oh, what have we got here? We've got Ellie, got Paul Walker, Simon Beck, David and Jill. Hey, guys. Andy Edie, nice holiday, mate. Athena, hello. Gary, Chris, Matt Malarkey, and a few other people. J-Lo and Matt. Well, not Matt. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And then the last one is just people on their mobile phones. Cool. 3, 2, 1. Cool. Okay, back to. Sweet. So prizes. Let's have a little share screen. This is where I share something incredibly embarrassing. Cool. Random number generator. I have 112 people signed up before 7 o'clock. Got really confusing when I realized that some people had signed up for more than one person. So I did add those back in. So 112 people. We have prizes of 2 jump tickets. We have a beanie, 2 buffs, and anything off the breakfast menu. So what's that? 2 jump tickets, a beanie, 2 buffs, and so 6 winners. And then the pack jobs are for the best photo packing at home. So first name out of the hat. First choice is going to be number 54. That is Ferro Bolek. Congratulations, dude. 72, second choice. Chris Wilson. Third choice, number 45, Valcho. No surname. Fourth choice, number 98, Brian Kilroy. Fifth choice, number 4, David Craig. Let's say fifth choice. And then just going to double check. Sixth choice, 26, that is Hubert Kaluzny. And then back up 104, Martin Skirble, and then back up 43, Tom Dent. Might not win Rookie Rumble, dude, but you might win a buff. Cool. Okay. Q&A. We've got a few in the list. Emily, forgive me, I got a little bit distracted when we went through the malfunctions. You got to the other malfunctions. Did you give some words of advice of what you might do in each of the situations, or did you just say find an instructor?
No, I kind of tried to keep it brief because I know we've got lots of different experience levels on the chat. So I figured, you know, some people with lots of jumps probably have a plan already, and that those that don't, it's normally pretty good to come and have a chat with someone and talk through all the options and bits and bobs.
You definitely can't get anything better than finding an instructor in real life and going through the suspended harness drills and doing something like that. But we are here right now. Josh, Emily, do you mind if we run through a few of them and just give a few words of advice of what we teach at Langar, not necessarily what other people might do? And if you are watching this and you have a plan already, stick with that, because primacy is the best thing. What you've learned first, you're going to learn best. Stick with that. If you want to understand what else and other people are looking at, then have a listen as well to this. So some of the other emergencies and entanglement. Who wants to take that one, Emily or Josh?
I can talk about entanglements.
Go on, Josh.
Pretty sure everyone in here has pretty much got an A license, maybe couples without. So if you've got an A license, you know, you've kind of proven you can be stable. So the first thing I'd say is let's avoid an entanglement, because it's not a nice situation to be in. And we do that by being stable at deployment. Maybe you need to afford yourself more time to get stable if you feel that's something you're not comfortable with. If you did find yourself entangled, though, it's all about being clear about what your heights are in your head. And they don't have to necessarily be exactly what we teach students at Langar. But by the time you're hitting a certain altitude, your plan should change from trying to clear that entanglement to either cutting away if you feel it will improve your situation, or just deploying your reserve if you feel that's the option for you. I would say for licensed jumpers, there is no black and white answer for an entanglement. You should be clear about what your sort of red lines are for continuing with your current situation or doing something to change it. Emily might have something to add.
No, I think that's pretty good. I'm happy to talk about kind of two out. We
Yes,
want to
please.
talk about if you've got two parachutes. So again, it's like looking at your situation and assessing it, seeing whether your two parachutes are touching, so whether they're side by side like this, or one in front of the other, and they're kind of acting like one giant parachute, in which case you can take control of it using your main toggles, or if it's in a downplane situation where they're totally separate, and you're going to have quite a high descent rate where you need to cut away and swing underneath your reserve. And it wouldn't be a real safety day or a real safety hour if no one was to mention a dual square report, which is Rich Wheatley's absolute favourite. So I'm going to put what I think is the link to it in the chat there. And that talks all about kind of if you've got two parachutes out, how they interact with each other. And again, with a bit more experience, the difference between if your main difference in sizes between your main canopy and your reserve canopy, and how they're likely to react with each other and interact if you've got two parachutes out. So, you know, we've got a week left of lockdown. So if you've got a bit of time, give it a read.
Cool, thanks, Emily. So we've talked a few times about our links and stuff. So we'll send an email out to everybody registered with all the links that we've talked about. And yeah, I see some people putting some stuff in the chat as well. We'll make sure those get shared as well. Josh, do you want to talk about horseshoes?
Horseshoes, first thing you need to do is get the deployment back in sequence. So horseshoe is an out of sequence deployment. The pin has been knocked out of your main tray before you've had a chance to throw the pilot chute, is how it normally happens. So your D-bag starts to come out, but the pilot chute is still in the pocket. Especially with free fly friendly kit, your pilot chute would probably struggle to be extracted unless you help it. So to get it back in sequence, you need to reach back, take hold of your pilot chute and throw the pilot chute. After that, you'll probably have a deployment at some point of some kind. It'll either be a good canopy or a malfunction, and then you deal with it from there.
Perfect. And then the last one, canopy collisions.
So canopy collisions, the nice thing with canopy collisions is that they are super, super avoidable. So to have a canopy collision, you need two people to be in exactly the same space of sky at exactly the same time. And the sky is pretty big. So, you know, you can avoid that nice and easily. Big part of that is being aware of who you're jumping with, having a good break off. So making sure you're tracking away from each other, making sure that you're aware of what else is on the lift. So not just the people in your group, but the people that are out before you and after you. And again, having a plan. So assessing the situation, who's got the good canopy, who's got a bad canopy, and also what height are you at. So a canopy collision can happen from on opening to all the way down to when we land on the ground. So assessing your altitude and making decisions based on what's going to improve the situation you're in. So there's a few things, different things to think about there.
Cool. Thank you very much. So let's have a look in the chat to see what other questions we've got. Pete OP asks if we have to travel to get to the drop zones, 3 or 4 hours for him. Excuse me. Can we pre-book a reserve repack and inspection and a main repack with one of the team? I hate to travel all the way for a weekend of jumping only to find no one was available to do the repacking. Josh?
I didn't quite see when that person is planning to come, but there's still a few days to go. So what I'd recommend they try and do is get it done somehow before we actually reopen, because all of the instructors are often the reserve packers as well. We're going to get pretty busy in that first week. So if they are looking to get that done before the 29th or whatever drop zone opening date they're going for, they can probably contact that drop zone and find a way to drop it off before that date.
Yeah, there are some places that do courier service as well for sort of 20 quid each way. And there are a couple of riggers. There's at least one, JC at Langar, who will, he doesn't jump at weekends, so he's available for rigging work because it's how he earns his money. But most of the instructors sort of double up as advanced packers and riggers, so they don't want to be doing that sort of work at the weekend. So I'd get on the Facebook group, I'd post, ask a question, and if it's possible, somebody will answer you. But it's not a common thing, if you know what I mean. People want to jump when it's busy. I mean, if it's midweek and the weather's bad, absolutely, but it's all a bit of chance. So next question, Jason wants to know about rig hire being available when Langar reopens. Will COVID affect this? I think we're good, aren't we? Just don't lick the kit.
Yep. It's going to be busy, so don't be surprised if there's lots of people trying to use it. And yeah, keep your hands clean. That's basically it.
Matt Cumming would like to know if Langar has a separate swooping area now. So CH Canopy Handling and CP Canopy Piloting have all kind of merged into Canopy Training CT now, and CH1 has been done away with, and CH2 becomes CT1. Is that right?
I believe so. I think British Skydiving's plan is to have that in place by April 1st. Yeah, there will be a separate high performance landing area at Langar. And I think most drop zones will be required to have that to some degree. To various levels, the basic idea is if you're doing a turn greater than 90 degrees, you should aim to do it in one area, and people not doing that kind of maneuver should do it in another area.
Who gets the shortest walk back?
It depends on the landing direction.
Josh, you're getting a lot of comments. You're getting some comments about how calm you are and soothing. Ed, thank you for the abuse. Ryan, be more Josh. Cheers, mate. Questions. John Bowles says, plan the dive the plan. Yep, absolutely. Always works best. So if you change anything, you're just adding in extra things that could go wrong. Freefall Meister, remember pool time is get busy time. Check your canopies okay, check around for traffic, check your altitude. Then your position where you are now, where you need to be. Yes, thank you for that. Mikhail, will UK drop zones allow foreign jumpers, e.g. from Ireland, arriving by a ferry or car? I think the drop zones will allow it if our country allows it. Have you got any update on that, Josh?
I think with all of that kind of stuff, it's not up to drop zones or any businesses really to be the final arbitrator on that stuff. People should try and stick to the guidelines as best as they can, but just as you go into a supermarket and they don't ask where you've come from, drop zones probably aren't going to be asking that either.
Just practice your British accent, yeah? John Chappell asks, what's the current thinking on flex and I guess discretion from drop zones and chief instructors with canopy size to walkout weight? Not quite sure what that means. I guess that's the new canopy size regulations for downsizing. But I'm under the impression that no one who's got a number of jumps on their current kit is going to have to change. Do you know more about? Do you know about this, Josh? I'm relying on you, Josh, because you've been at the drop zone more often than I have. Way more often.
Richard summed that up way better than I'll ever be able to in an article on our website. I mean, ultimately, it's up to chief instructors. They have to make that decision because they are taking a certain level of responsibility if you fall outside those charts. I think Richard feels as long as what people are doing is fairly sensible, then they should be all right. There are dispensations that can be made for people with a current B license. I'll see if I can find the link whilst you're doing the next bit.
Cool, thank you. David and Jill Craig would like to know more about aircraft emergencies. How high you are, I guess, depends where you are, but generally speaks, the pilot communicates. The last aircraft emergency at Langar was 2015, 2016. The engine, something went wrong in the engine. I don't know. It went very, very quiet, very quickly. A couple of experienced skydivers panicked. A couple of instructors told them to be very quiet and sit still for the moment. They spoke to the pilot. They were about 4.5 miles out from memory. So if they'd got out immediately, it would have been not quite so great. But they were at 11,000 feet. So they had loads of altitude, and the planes don't drop out of the sky. If the wings come off, yes, but generally they just glide. So the plane was able to fly over the drop zone. Everybody on the load got out, landed on. The plane did one loop, went all the way around, and then came in and landed. It was, as aircraft emergencies go, pretty Josh, pretty calm. So you don't have, it's not a panic, it's just stay calm and listen to what's going on. And the pilot does have to fly the airplane, so they might not be able to talk to you straight away. So you might have to take a decision on that. Again, it depends where you are in relation to the airfield and how high you are. David and Jill, did you have any specific questions about that? And Josh, Emily, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you, like, especially that example at Langar, I think everyone has this thought in their head that an aircraft emergency is something's on fire or a wing's fallen off, but it doesn't always have to be that extreme or that I don't know, that intense. And it's just thinking through what heights you would be comfortable to do what at. A bit like, I think you mentioned them earlier, Brian, you know, having a plan for if you need to land in the plane, what, or if there's an issue, what height would you decide to land with the plane? What height would you decide to get out on your main canopy or your reserve canopy? I've heard, I think it was Rich one safety day said that sometimes he will randomly, when he's in the plane, he'll sit with his eyes shut for a little bit and then open his eyes and imagine and go through that situation of, right, I'm at X altitude, I'm over this spot. If we were to have an aircraft emergency, what would I do? I think that's a pretty good kind of thing to run through just every now and again, just to make sure your brain has ran through that kind of situation, because it's one of those that we hope we'll never be in, but just like malfunctions, if you're planned and prepared for it, then if it was to come up, you're equipped to deal with it really effectively. So that's quite a good, and it also is a way to pass 20 minutes in the plane. It's
not 20 minutes now, we've got fast planes. But it is a really great way of, I like that a lot. As skydivers, we're quite morbid because we're always thinking of ways we could kill ourselves. So we're always thinking of ways that we don't. And it's this thing where we're always running, what if, you know, all good skydivers have a plan B, sometimes a plan C as well. So think about this, you know, look for issues, what's going on, look for that. And testing yourself, like Emily just said that Rich does in that example, is brilliant because it keeps it current, it keeps you thinking about it. And that's a really good thing because it's been a few months. Okay, next question. Sam Haste says, intentional canopy collisions are fun. Yes, CF is fun. Charlie agrees, fantastic.
I would say CF is great if you are feeling a little bit nervous about, you know, flying your canopy and being close to other people. Doing a couple of jumps with a CF coach is really, really good for a little bit of confidence in the canopy, because it's in such a kind of controlled way with people that are obviously they're coaches, so they're really, really good at what they do. So maybe that's something for people to think about doing this season.
Tom and Katie have a question about accommodation at the drop zone. When can you start spending the night at Langar, Josh? Is it May the 17th?
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for at the moment. Maybe it will change, but we're being a bit conservative perhaps on that because it's not the primary function of our business. So we'll be a little bit slower with the camping stuff. May 17th.
So if you have a fully self-contained camper van and you let the drop zone know in advance, you can stay over before May 17th. But if you think if you wanted to use a tent or a caravan, you can't. Is that correct?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Whether you need to come into the buildings or not is kind of the deciding factor. And also we'd like people to tell us in advance if that is something they're going to be doing, so we can work out whether there's going to be too many there, etc.
And that would be info@skydivelangar.co.uk.
Yep.
Cool. Dan Staples says, well, I've just said, brilliant. You don't need a toilet and shower, you just need copious amounts of deodorant. Ian Tomin says, use your Skydiver post to get your rig to Langar. I guess that's to the person who was talking about getting it in for a repack. John Bowl says, do we need to book to jump at Langar or just turn up and join in? I'm pretty sure you can just turn up and join in. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to say why?
We found when we did it the first time that we never really reached capacity of the number of people we had decided could come. So yeah, that number's it's pretty high because we have so much outdoor space. We can accommodate a lot of people at the drop zone in a safe way. You know, they can still stay far apart. It's not like we're trying to squeeze all of those people into a small space at the same time. And secondly, it was a lot of work to administer, and we found we had a lot of people not turning up, so there were slots that weren't being used. And I think this time round, everyone's a little bit more familiar with COVID. We hopefully know the guidelines a little bit better. We're not trying to work out what COVID secure means. We already know that.
Cool, thank you. Tom and Katie would like to know how Kit and Docs is working.
You can email it over in advance. So if you already have an account with us, or you know you've set up a burble, or we've done that for you, if you're unsure, you can ask in the email. But if there's anything that's gone out of date, I mean, everyone's British Skydiving membership is going to be out fairly soon. So you can email that over to us. We'll update it already on your account. And then when you turn up, you'll just need to collect a new kit tag if you have your own kit. Yeah, or you can do it on the day, but it might be a little bit busier then.
Cool. Andy asks, what are the recurrency requirements for A license jumpers at Langar? Example, is it dependent on time since the last jump and the total number of jumps, etc.? Emily, do you want to take that one, or should we hand that to Josh as well?
I mean, I can try, and then if I'm wrong, Josh can jump in and correct. But I think it is kind of a bit dependent on your total number of jumps and your last, not just your last jump, but your last jumps. So how current you were before this lockdown. So if you've only done a couple of jumps in the last 12 months, then we might need you to redo a few things. We might want to see a couple of your jumps, whether you did static line, it might be redoing a Cat 8 jump. If you did AFF, we might want to do a checkout jump and do another level 7. But if you were really, really current last year and you've got quite a few jumps under your belt and you're working towards your B license, we might just say spend a little bit of time with an instructor. I would say maybe get in touch beforehand. So before we open, drop us an email with your details. So let us know how many jumps you've got, how many jumps you've done in the last 12 months, and the date of your last jump. And then we can give you an idea of what you need to do. And it'll also give us a bit of a heads up of what staffing we need to help you get back in the air as well, if we need an instructor to spend a bit of time with you beforehand.
And you know, you'd want people to come to sit with an instructor and get that refresh. I mean, you know, people are sat here. If you're sat here, maybe you want to sit with an instructor for a couple of hours in the morning as well at the drop zone and go into suspended harness, which, you know, we can't do tonight, just to be properly good. You know, that will make you a better, safer skydiver.
We're going to have lots of refreshes going on for students. We've got lots of AFF and static line students that are in the middle of their kind of way to getting their A license that are going to need to have quite a decent refresh in the mornings. So if you're around and you're, you know, fresh off your A license, even if you've got your D license, you can always just come and jump in one of those refreshes, you know, stand at the back, run through some stuff and put a practice jacket on and go through your drills.
memory, that costs, if people are going to do a refresh jump with an instructor and a slightly longer refresh, that's around about 120, if I got that right. Or am I just making that up?
We won't be charging for the refresh, the ground school part during the refresh week anyway, so it'll be a bit cheaper if people come in.
Excellent. And worst case scenario, I think some people have been asked to do sort of 5 solos as like a mock consolidation jumps, just to get used to it again. Cool, thank you. George asked, and sorry we missed your question, dude. Can you say, George Andrews, can you post pictures of the new landing area setup so we can start to get them in our heads, the high performance versus normal areas? Josh, are they available yet?
Not just yet, because it's not fully solidified yet. But all I can say is at Langar it will be fairly simple. I don't think you'll have to. It's for the people doing the high performance landings to get it in their heads more than it is the other people. There'll just be certain areas that you need to try and avoid when you can. If you can't avoid them, then it's up to the people doing the high performance landing areas to avoid you, not the other way around. So yeah, they'll be out soon, ready for the new season, but there's nothing we can share just yet.
Will it always be a left-hand pattern in 99% of the cases, or will there be a right-hand pattern in certain wind circumstances to avoid it?
And the current plan is it will still always be a left-hand pattern.
Elliot's got a good question. Why do Langar put free flyers out before flat flyers? The majority of upper drop zones do flat flyers out before free flyers. Josh, you love this.
I think it's a bit of a myth, actually, and having spoken to Richard quite a lot, what Richard believes in is more active jump mastering, I think he calls it, which means it's up to the jump master to decide whether a free fly group's going first, or a flat flying group, or a student, or a tandem, or a hop and bop. You can use your brain a little bit to decide. Because of free fall drift, a lot of times actually it should be a flat flying group going first, and I think people know that. The reason why it sometimes ends up being a free flying group is because quite often now a free flying group might be moving off the flight line. They're doing some level of tracking, but we still call it free flying. Often they're on small canopies, so if there's a free flying group or quite experienced people on small canopies, they can get down and land first and avoid any canopy issues by going first. And then you can counteract that by leaving extra separation before the flat flying group gets out next. So there's different ways to create separation. You can create separation by the order you put people out, or you can create separation by leaving extra time between groups. And it's up to an experienced jump master to be active in making that decision, I think.
Elliot says, so they're dirty low pullers, and it's not that, it's that an FS group will fall at 110, 120 miles an hour, and a free fly group will be 160, 180. So they're in the sky for less time. That's why they reach pull height first. That's why they're lower. Stephen K, are you aware of any tools for practicing jump mastering, e.g. prompts for scenarios, etc.? Good question. I think there are a lot of us who've hardly done it or never done it, and would be a bit nervous if we were called upon. Absolutely. I think at Langar we're kind of spoiled. There's a lot of very experienced skydivers. It's unlikely you're going to be jump master until you've got sort of 500 jumps or so. Whereas at smaller drop zones, I know I was asked to be a jump master, and I had less than 100 jumps. I was not ready for that. Josh, have you seen any tools for practicing?
I haven't seen any tools, but what I tend to suggest because I bring this up when I do B license briefs, that you do it at 50 jumps and you go through it and you practice it, and then you might not get asked to do it for quite a while. But one thing you can do is get kitted up a little bit early, go look at the manifest and just pretend to be jump master, see what's on the lift, see what the winds are doing, and make a plan. And then you can either go talk to the actual jump master and see if they've got the same plan, or you can just kind of watch them, see what they do, and see if your plan lines up with what they were doing. And if it does, then happy days. And if it doesn't, then maybe go and ask. It might be that you've still got a good plan. It's just a different way of looking at things. Or you've seen something the jump master's missed, or the jump master has a little bit more experience, has seen something that you've missed. So you can always practice it without actually being the jump master.
In terms of being inexperienced at it, just say that. Tell everyone on the load, hey guys, help me out here. It's a little bit complicated. I'm not quite used to this. People are generally pretty forgiving and stuff like that. They want to help, and they almost want someone else to help keep them safe as well. So, hey guys, just go and stand in your groups so I can work it out really easy. Okay, you're flat, you're free fly, you're wingsuiting, stuff like that, work it out. But tell people, they generally want to help as well. Jason is hungry. Will the cafe be open from the 29th?
I believe it will be open for takeaway.
Who came up with a new name?
I don't know if it is a name or just a slogan. I think it's a slogan.
Oh, I like it should be a name. Well, it was called Eat, Swoop, Rave, Repeat. I like that. That should be the name.
It has an Instagram, I think. Very, very modern.
Jess Straub says the last time she tried to copy somebody doing jump master, Rich decided that was the reason to make me jump master. Fantastic, learning on the job. And you had Rich right there to assist you as well. Perfect. Mike Hughes saying thank you. Tim says, who's running it now? I assume that means the cafe. Still Sean Roberts, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. Have we got any more questions, guys? We've got 9 minutes. I'm just going to end this early. If anybody wants to put their hand up and talk, they can. Cool. Okay.
Josh, what's the story where the drop zone screwed you over that you were referencing earlier?
Who's talking? Who's talking? Introduce yourself.
Ed Hill.
Ed Hill. Hello, Ed.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, and Sonia. Hey.
That's School of Hard Knocks, Brian. Do you want to do School of Hard Knocks yet?
It's the dessert. So let's finish up with our conclusion and the closing words, and then we'll do that straight away after that. Okay. So thank you to you for all attending. Thank you very much for being here, for investing your time in yourself and supporting Trees for the Future. What did we get to? 3,340 trees. I make it at the moment. Thank you. We really appreciate it. You should have had the email with the link to get in here. We should have also had the link for feedback. If you could fill it in, it's 5 questions. It's super short. It really does help. Only one question is retired, so just do that one and skip the others if you want. We'll try and do a roundup email with all the notes, all the links that came out tonight. It'll come out in the next day or two, and at some point the video for this will be up online as well via the Skydive Langar site or the Skydive Langar YouTube channel, hopefully, and you can watch the Emily and Josh and Brian show again and again and again. Thanks again to Emily and Josh for their brain dumps. Thank you to the sponsors of this class, Skydive Langar, the cafe, which should definitely be called Eat, Swoop, Rave, Repeat, and to Visionary. Thank you to you for being here. Investing in yourself is something that people don't do enough of, but as was mentioned earlier, safety isn't expensive, it's priceless. Nice one for being here. Emily, do you have any last words for us?
No, just thanks for coming, and see you all at the drop zone soon. Can't wait.
Josh, any last words? I like your leaning in close, getting in the logo. You're on mute. Classy.
I was doing a drawing. Give yourself time for those first few jumps. Don't get yourselves in a rush. There's plenty of summer to get lots of jumps in. So for those first few back, just give yourself as much time as you need. Cool. There is always a tomorrow, as Josh said. There's always a tomorrow to jump unless you rush it and then make mistakes, and then there might not be any more tomorrows. Now, I often close with the line, I hope you learned something, but actually I don't. I hope you were reminded of something you already knew but had forgotten. I hope you had fun. I hope you'll see you in the sky or the tunnel again soon. Stay safe, stay sane, stay calm, and make good decisions. Blue skies, folks.